Tonight, Vladimir, stop. That's President Trump's message to Putin. President Trump responding after one of the most devastating attacks in Ukraine's capital since the war began. As the administration signals it may walk away from peace talks. It's a war Trump once said he could end in 24 hours. Overwhelming crowds flood St. Peter's Square. Mourners from around the world paying their final respects to Pope Francis, lying in state. We talked with a sister who Pope Francis thanked for her work with migrant families in Texas at an ABC News town hall a decade ago. How that moment led to a connection lasting more than a decade.
I wrote him a letter once to tell him how things were here and how important it was to receive his support with the volunteers.
And it seems like something you'd hear about in a movie. The mastermind behind the Rwandan genocide is actually living in a swanky beach community here in America. A farm is using rocks, yes, rocks, to help cool the planet. And it's not only good for the earth, it's helping farmers grow more food for a hungry world.
I like this. We're summiting like Waste Mountain.
Exactly. Carbon Capture Mountain.
Carbon Capture Mountain, we'll call it.
The sun, like we've never seen before. The story behind the highest quality picture ever. And the hit Star Wars show Andor is back for its final season. And the superstar Diego Luna is here with a preview and why he agreed to take on this role in the first place.
I was invited to come and be part of a project that wanted to be different, that was allowed to be different, you know, that it was going to be exactly what I was just saying, more realistic, more grounded.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Ramos in for Linsey Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We begin with Russia raining missiles on Ukraine overnight and President Trump's message to Putin. Stop. The attack on the capital city, Kyiv, left at least a dozen people dead and 80 more injured. It was one of the deadliest nights in Kyiv in nearly a year. Families once again forced to seek shelter in Kyiv's subway stations. The strikes come hours after President Trump criticized Ukraine's president for rejecting a peace proposal that would force Ukraine to give up Crimea and other territories seized by Russia. President Trump called it very bad timing amidst negotiations to end the war, writing on social media, Vladimir, stop. When asked by a reporter what concessions Russia has made, Trump responded.
Stopping the war, stopping taking the whole country, pretty big concession.
You may remember on the campaign trail, candidate Trump promised in a CNN town hall that he'd resolve the conflict in 24 hours.
Let me just put it a nicer way. If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours.
The war now raging on, his 94th day in office, as the death toll mounts in Ukraine. And we're also following late-breaking news tonight involving Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Martha Raddatz is covering it all.
Tonight, Ukrainians reeling after the largest Russian attack on the country in nearly a year. Missiles and drones striking the capital, Kyiv, leaving at least a dozen dead and more than 100 wounded. An attack that prompted President Trump, whose administration is trying to broker a peace agreement, to directly call out Russia's President Vladimir Putin, writing on social media, Vladimir, stop. And then from the Oval Office,
I didn't like last night. I wasn't happy with it. And we're in the midst of talking peace and missiles were fired.
the strikes coming just hours after Trump lashed out at Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky for rejecting the U.S. peace proposal that would prohibit NATO membership for Ukraine and would force Ukraine to give up land that Russia has seized since its invasion, in addition to giving up Crimea. Zelensky saying, "We will negotiate, we will not surrender." Today, in a meeting with NATO ally Norway, Trump was asked what concessions he is asking of Russia, the country that invaded Ukraine.
Stopping the war, stopping taking the whole country, pretty big concession.
Certainly not a big concession in the eyes of President Zelensky, who would have to allow Russia to keep land it seized illegally. Zelensky saying there must be real pressure on Russia to stop this. Russia continues killing civilians. That means Putin is not afraid.
That war in Ukraine has been going on now for more than 3 years. And Martha Raddatz joins us now from Washington. And Martha, switching gears, there's breaking news from the Pentagon tonight about Secretary of Defense Hegseth and another controversy. What are you learning?
Well, Stephanie, sources tell ABC News that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth used the Signal app on a personal computer in his office that was connected to the internet on an unsecured line, what's called a dirty line, a nickname given to a commercial internet line that's used to connect to websites that would not be available on the Pentagon's computers and would not be secure. Stephanie.
Certainly learning more details there. We've heard a lot about the chat, the discussion on the Signal app. So talk to us about why this matters, why this is so significant.
Well, it's exactly about those Signal chats. They are not secure. And Pete Hegseth would certainly be a target to try to find out what he is talking about from foreign adversaries. And again, it is not secure. They could go into that computer. They could try to find out whatever they possibly could. Now, the Pentagon made a point yesterday of saying the secretary did not use a government computer, did not use Signal on a government computer, but we're learning tonight, according to those sources, that it was a personal computer, and those are usually not even allowed in the Secretary of Defense's office. Stephanie.
There could be serious consequences by using that unsecured line. Martha, thank you so much. Tens of thousands of mourners from around the world continue to pay respects to Pope Francis today. And tonight, the first image of Pope Francis's tomb bearing the simple inscription, Franciscus, at his request. The Vatican kept the doors open overnight until 5:30 in the morning, the line stretching up to a mile at times. Our Terry Moran was inside St. Peter's Basilica today, witnessing that line for himself.
Tonight, more than 90,000 people have streamed up Rome's streets and avenues to the Vatican, waiting for hours for those few unforgettable moments to say farewell to Pope Francis. And I joined them through the great doors into St. Peter's Basilica, up the center aisle, under the soaring dome, everything hushed and respectful. And there he was, Francis, in that simple wooden coffin, the people's pope to the end. It's just after nightfall, and still they're coming, and the feeling here is extraordinary, as it is inside. There are people who are in tears, people very prayerful, but more than anything, there's a sense of history and of gratitude.
As if it wasn't for Pope Francis.
Tonight, Rosie Lamanna from Long Island, overwhelmed by the moment.
We came from New York thinking we're going on a tour, never thinking we're going to see the Pope in his passing, and feel the faith in the church, feel the faith. It's just in you. It's in your heart.
Rosie, it feels like you're really touched. Like really
I'm touched. I was really touched. It took your breath away. Just to be there, just to see it.
Shelley Ferry, traveling with her family from Virginia.
It's just a very surreal experience to bring my children to this. I just think it's incredible to be here and to experience it with them.
Security is tight, armed soldiers keeping watch with anti-drone weapons, police canines on patrol. World leaders will be making their way here, including President Trump, President Zelensky, and Prince William, among 50 heads of state, along with a bevy of international royals. New York's Cardinal Timothy Dolan joining more than 100 cardinals meeting here today, more on their way, already discussing the future of the church and the conclave to choose the next pope.
That's the time that we get to know one another. We listen to one another. Each of the cardinals will have a chance to speak. They speak about the beauty and the challenges of the church in their diocese.
And tonight, the Vatican releasing a first look at the plan for the marble tomb where Francis will be laid to rest in the St. Mary Major Basilica in Rome. On the stone, one word, Franciscus, his name in Latin. In the streets around St. Peter's, memories of Francis abound. Hello. For decades, the Mancinelli family tailors have dressed bishops, cardinals, and popes. This is for the next pope. Raniero Mancinelli remembers fondly Francis teasing him about the high prices here and says that Francis changed church fashion. Suddenly, a simpler way was in vogue.
Si è molto semplificato.
With Pope Francis, he says, not only his style was personal, but the whole business changed because people didn't come anymore to get a lot of, other things to put on.
Wait, this is amazing. So Francis, because he was simple, he was kind of a style icon for the other bishops and cardinals. Everybody got more simple?
Yes, he tells me. But the fashions and the church may be changing again soon.
Terry Moran joins us now from the Vatican, where the funeral for Pope Francis will be held early Saturday morning. Terry, we know cardinals are already meeting. What preparations are being made for choosing the next pope during the conclave?
Well, right now they're meeting, they're gathering from around the world, and the first order of business is the funeral and the mourning period and the ordinary governing business of the church. Bills have to be paid, bishops have to be ordained, that kind of thing. What will happen next, though, is that when the cardinals get together in conclave, one of the cardinals that we bumped into today told us that the first order of business will be to get to know each other. This is the most global conclave ever. And so it looks like we aren't going to see that white smoke, that signal that a new pope has been chosen anytime soon. No date set yet, but it looks like the earliest the conclave could start is the week of May 5th. Stephanie?
All right, that mourning period lasting about 2 weeks. Terry, thank you so much. And back here at home, tonight we're in Texas, talking with a sister who Pope Francis thanked for her work with migrant families in an ABC News town hall a decade ago. Mireya Villarreal reports from McAllen on how that moment has led to a lasting connection.
This was the stunning moment that started it all. Pope Francis unexpectedly calling for Sister Norma Pimentel to come forward during a 2015 virtual audience ahead of his visit to America, thanking her for her work with migrant families along the South Texas border.
Sean valientes, vayan adelante, en primera línea, siempre.
I describe it as the moment that heaven came down and embraced me,
Queda feo que lo diga un papa, no sé. Las quiero mucho.
That one exchange leading to an in-person meeting in New York City a few days later, and a connection lasting more than a decade.
I was invited to the Vatican a couple of times. I wrote him a letter once to tell him how things were here and how important it was to receive his support for the volunteers. And he actually recorded a message so that everybody would hear that message. So his response was always present to us.
Sister Norma began working with Border Patrol agents in 2014. An influx of families crossing the Rio Grande River from Mexico into the U.S., overwhelming law enforcement and the community. Through Catholic charities and with the help of several local churches and volunteers, Sister Norma orchestrated shelter space, finding food and clothing for these groups. Not long after Pope Francis was chosen to lead the Catholic Church in 2013, he visited Lampedusa, Italy, a dangerous smuggling route. He met with migrants and denounced the globalization of indifference, encouraging the world to see these groups as people, as humans, not just refugees.
He wanted to make sure he was present and in the suffering and the presence of so many people who were drowning right there in the shores of this little island, Lampedusa.
Mr. Speaker, the Pope of the Holy See.
And during that historic 2015 visit to the United States, Pope Francis shared his own family history. The son of immigrant parents, in an effort to encourage Congress to find better ways to support migrants instead of fearing them.
The people of this continent are not fearful of foreigners, because most of us were once foreigners.
That sentiment shared with Vice President J.D. Vance during his last day here on Earth. Have mercy on migrants. Sister Norma still lives and works along the U.S.-Mexico border in the Rio Grande Valley. The local diocese holding a special mass to honor Pope Francis, with hundreds in attendance.
He's done amazing things during his papacy.
It was just amazing
with the people and everything he believed in.
But Sister Norma was regrettably absent. An anonymous donor offering to pay for her flight to Rome.
Pope Francis is probably doing something there to get me to Rome, you know?
Yeah.
The trip giving her a chance to honor the Pope in person for all he's done for her and for this community.
Everyone here in the Rio Grande Valley would love to be there with our Holy Father today. So I'm going representing all of us. You know, I'm going to be next to him in this moment that he's leaving and departing as a farewell. And so I bring all the love and the tears of everybody.
Our thanks to Medea Villarreal for that report. ABC's full live coverage of Pope Francis' funeral begins bright and early at 3:30 a.m. Saturday morning. World News Tonight anchor David Muir will lead our team from the Vatican and, of course, will be there for the conclave as well. And President Trump will be there for that funeral Saturday morning. And this comes as Trump and his administration are engaged in that tariff war with China that has upended global markets and the U.S. economy. President Trump has insisted the two sides were actively discussing tariffs. China called it fake news. A Chinese official says there have been no talks. Here's senior political correspondent Rachel Scott.
Get along very well.
Tonight, China pushing back hard on a claim President Trump has been making for days, that negotiations to end the trade war are well underway.
Are you talking to them actively now?
Actively. Everything's active.
But tonight, China calling that, quote, fake news. A top Chinese official saying, quote, as far as I know, China and the United States have not held consultations or negotiations on the tariff issue, let alone reached an agreement. Today, reporters pressing the president.
Can you clarify with whom the U.S. is speaking with China? They're saying it's fake news that trade talks are happening.
Well, they had a meeting this morning, so I can't tell you. It doesn't matter who they is. We may reveal it later, but they had meetings this morning.
He never did reveal that information. It comes with the president under increasing pressure to bring the trade war he started to a close. Major retailers like Target and Walmart have warned him shelves could go empty in a matter of weeks if he keeps in place his staggering 145% tariffs on goods from China. His own Treasury Secretary acknowledges the tariffs amount to an embargo. Already shipments from China starting to dry up. The number of cargo ships arriving from China into the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach next week will be down 29%. And as President Trump approaches 100 days in office, a new AP poll out tonight shows only 37% of Americans approve of how he's handling the economy, a key factor in his election victory. And the same number, just 37%, approve of how he's handling trade negotiations.
Our thanks to Rachel Scott. There's been an arrest in the New Jersey wildfire that's triggered a state of emergency and air quality alerts all the way to New York City. New images of the flames just hours ago. More than 23 square miles burned so far. Tonight, a 19-year-old is facing charges of aggravated arson as millions remain in the path of smoke. ABC's Morgan Norwood is on the scene.
Tonight, authorities in southern New Jersey say the Jones Road fire that burned more than 23 square miles of pine forest was intentionally started by a teenager. 19-year-old Joseph Kling appearing via Zoom from the Ocean County Jail today.
Sir, did you have the opportunity to watch the advisement of rights video, Mr. Kling?
Yes, Your Honor.
He's facing multiple charges, including aggravated arson. Fire investigators say Kling made a bonfire out of wooden pallets and left the scene while the fire was still burning. More than 3,000 people had to evacuate. The fire destroying this commercial building, James Herbst's family's business.
It's completely gone. There's about $5 million in product inside. Lost everything.
We're just yards away from where that warehouse burned and the ground's still smoldering. You can see the flames. It's hotspots like this that have firefighters working around the clock. And the towering clouds of smoke triggering air quality alerts in New York City for sensitive groups. People with breathing problems urged to take precautions.
So much damage caused by these fires. Our thanks to Morgan. Turning now to health news. In a public letter this week, the Assistant Secretary of Health for Trump's first administration warned that after the NIH made great strides toward ending HIV in this country, now the current administration is proposing cuts that will gut that HIV initiative. That former Trump official called cuts to NIH grants, staff, and the elimination of the Office of Infectious Disease and HIV policy devastating. And that's not the only health initiative on the chopping block. The Trump administration is cutting funding to the largest study investigating women's health in U.S. history, the Women's Health Initiative. And our next guest is a professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School and a principal investigator at the WHI. Dr. Joanne Manson, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us. Dr. Manson, the Women's Health Initiative was informed that the Department of Health and Human Services would terminate your contract in September. What was it like to hear that? What was your reaction?
It was really shocking, and it will be a devastating loss, not only to women's health, but really the health of all older Americans in the population. The Women's Health Initiative has really been a groundbreaking, large-scale nationwide study.
Yeah, we know that the WHI has been striving to improve health through research, but describe for us, if you can, the kind of research that you're doing and what's at stake.
Well, there are 3 randomized trials. Probably the best known has been the hormone therapy trials, which has really contributed to having more appropriate decision-making about the use of menopausal hormones. It's had some really major findings that have changed clinical guidelines, and it's become clear there's no one-size-fits-all answer to hormone therapy, that it really needs to be individualized. Also, there's a very strong interest in understanding how to prevent chronic diseases, how to improve healthy aging, reduce cognitive decline, improve mobility, physical function as we age.
Tell us about some of the discoveries and cost savings that have come from the WHI studying approximately 160,000 women for more than 40 years.
Yes, well, in terms of the hormone therapy trials, we did estimate that there was a cost savings of close to $35 billion due to more appropriate decision-making about hormone therapy. There had been a trend toward prescribing these hormones among older women, even starting among women in their 70s and 80s, to try to prevent heart disease, stroke, cognitive decline. The WHI showed clearly that that was not a favorable trend, and also shed light on who were the most appropriate candidates for hormone therapy, especially in women. And the WHI has had a very robust program of understanding risk factors for heart failure and atrial fibrillation, how to prevent these diseases, as well as prevention of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, many other cancers, osteoporotic fractures. The list goes on and on.
Incredible and impressive work. These are, landmark studies that have been conducted by the initiative. But now that so many of your contracts are being terminated, what happens? What happens next to the initiative?
Well, the research will be substantially curtailed if these cuts do go through, and we're waiting to find out exactly how much will be cut and whether the Clinical Coordinating Center will continue funding after January 2026. So there are a lot of unanswered questions right now, and we're hoping that some of this can be turned around.
Absolutely. There's so much medical research at stake here, but we really appreciate your time, Dr. Joanne Manson, principal investigator of the Women's Health Initiative and a professor at Harvard Medical School. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you, Stephanie.
A judge has blocked a Trump executive order requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote. The judge ruled Congress, not the president, has the power to regulate elections. The ruling also bars the Bipartisan Election Assistance Commission from withholding federal funding to states that did not comply with the president's executive order. A beekeeper on New York's Long Island has been arrested for allegedly hiding his role in the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. ABC News chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky is here. Aaron, before we get to the details, I want to provide some context for viewers. During the 1994 genocide, as many as 800,000 people were murdered in ethnic clashes in just 3 months. The violence spread through the country with shocking speed and brutality. The international community did not step in to help during that time, and it led to a full-blown humanitarian crisis. So, Aaron, Long Island is a really long way from Rwanda, really far. So tell us about this case. Who was arrested and what did he do?
It is a remarkable case that is, 30-odd years in the making, more so. Faustin Nsiba-Mukunzi was arrested for making false statements about his past when he was applying for green cards and for citizenship here in the United States. And according to federal prosecutors in Central Islip, in 1994, he was a sector leader in Rwanda who directed groups of armed Hutus to kill Tutsis, who were thought to be the political enemy at the time. And according to the indictment, he directed groups of armed men to kill their opponents and participated in some of the violence himself, hitting some of his political opponents with clubs, killing them. He oversaw violence and killing as this sector counselor, as he was called. And prosecutors say when it came time to apply for U.S. citizenship, he disclosed none of it.
That's incredible that authorities were able to find him now. Does the indictment list exactly how they were able to get a hold of him 30 years later?
Well, he has applied ever since 2003, according to the indictment, Steph, for different status in the United States, whether it's a green card or some kind of permanent residency. And each time, according to federal prosecutors, he repeatedly denied his role in the Rwandan genocide on those official documents, which he then, they say, he submitted under penalty of perjury. What specifically led them to arrest him now, as he was living in this rather exclusive enclave on Long Island? The court documents don't make clear, but he has applied repeatedly for either citizenship or some kind of status in the United States. Finally, it seems somebody noticed.
So what happens next in this case?
Well, today he appeared before a federal judge in Central Islip on Long Island. He pleaded not guilty. And even though federal prosecutors wanted him held without bail, the judge agreed to a $250,000 bond. He'll be able to go free, but he does have an ankle monitor and restrictions on his travel. Federal prosecutors are intent on having him stand trial.
Incredible story.
Just remarkable.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that to us, Aaron.
Sure.
Millions in Israel paused their day, some getting out of their cars on the highway, and stood silent for 2 minutes to commemorate Holocaust Remembrance Day. Wreaths were also laid by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at Yad Vashem. That's the National Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem. The day falls every year on the anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. That's the largest uprising by Jews during World War II and the first significant urban revolt against German occupation in Europe. Coming up, an Amazon driver makes a delivery and then takes something he likes from a customer's garage. But first, there's possibly a simple solution to the complicated problem of climate change. That's coming up.
It's not rocket science, it's rock science.
Welcome back. As we continue to mark Earth Week here on ABC News Live Prime, we want to show you some of the people and innovative technologies that could help us reduce our harmful impact on the planet. A North Carolina farm is using rocks. Yeah, that's right, rocks to help cool the planet. As our Ginger Z shows us, it's not only good for the Earth, it's helping farmers grow more food for a hungry world.
We've tried a lot of things to reverse the effects of climate change. Planting more trees, farming seaweed in the ocean, even sucking carbon dioxide out of the sky with vacuums. And yeah, all of this can help. But it turns out this whole time, a simple solution was right under our feet. Here are these steps.
Yeah, so you're coming into the old pit.
That solution starts here at the Sun Rock Quarry, just outside Durham, North Carolina. It turns out that certain types of rock do a really good job at getting carbon dioxide out of the air. Less CO2 in the atmosphere, of course, could help turn down the planet's thermostat, slowing the impacts of climate change.
It's not rocket science, it's rock science.
Naturally, the process is called rock weathering, and it starts when rain absorbs carbon dioxide as it falls. When that rain hits volcanic rock, it makes a white chalky substance called bicarbonate that goes into the ocean and often becomes a seashell, which stores that carbon. But that whole process can take thousands to millions of years.
And you can see how fine it is. Like, you can break that up, feel it in your fingers.
Mary Yap, co-founder of Lithos Carbon, wants to speed up this natural process with enhanced rock weathering.
Forever, Sun Rock was just kind of piling up this dust that was the waste product from washing all their product and their rock. But then Mary and Lithos came along and realized this was like gold for taking carbon out of the atmosphere.
It's like putting cubes or rocks of sugar in your coffee, which is probably not going to do much, versus powdered sugar in your coffee.
The powdered sugar, in this case, are very small rocks that were hidden in plain sight. And when sprinkled on farm fields, it can significantly accelerate the time it takes to remove large amounts of CO2. Fortunately, the quarry and others like it have a lot of it laying around.
And don't worry, they're not blasting a big mountain and making a hole in the earth just to make all this happen. This giant mine is already making rock for asphalt and concrete.
When you extract all that ultrafine material out, you've got to find somewhere for it to go. And for the last 10 plus years, we piled it up. We just made some really big piles and made berms out of it.
Those berms of what they thought were waste grew to what they now affectionately call Brown Mountain. I like this. We're summiting like Waste Mountain.
Exactly. Carbon Capture Mountain.
Carbon Capture Mountain, we'll call it. A 120-foot mountain of basalt dust that Lithos is buying by the literal truckload. Dozens of trucks lined up all day, picking up this unassuming climate gold. Each truck takes the dust to a farm within 75 miles. That's to limit the greenhouse gas emissions from the drive. They load it into their spreaders and sprinkle it over the soil.
And what we're doing is we're taking this material and spreading out at like 1 millimeter depth across millions of acres of farmland eventually. And that really accelerates the weathering.
And believe it or not, enhanced rock weathering has another magical property.
The added benefit to raising the pH of the soil and increasing crop yields is that it's cleaning the air at the same time.
Rick Bennett, lifelong farmer and now proud spreader of rock dust, is a firm believer that some things are not too good to be true.
This is volcanic rock. I mean, it's 100% organic, all natural. There's no heavy metals in it. It's totally beneficial. We can set the rate in here of the bulk density of the material so that our spread rate is accurate.
So it's all really like scienced out in here.
Yeah, pretty much. High-tech rednecks, I guess you would say.
As we spread the rock dust on the field, data from the cab of the tractor is transmitted directly to Lithos. Then, Lithos meticulously collects thousands of soil samples to prove that it's working.
So we're going to be taking hundreds of samples here at a super high density and giving that data back to the farmer or the grower so that they know what's going on in their field. And then we're going to send the other half of the sample that we collect to a geochemical lab so they can do the analysis of the carbon capture.
As of right now, Lithos Carbon provides rock dust for more than 600 farms in at least 10 states, and that will go on until 2030. As with most carbon capture programs, one of the biggest challenges is cost.
Funded primarily by companies who want to offset their own carbon emissions, the whole process is free for farmers, for now.
Is enhanced rock weathering scalable?
Absolutely. All the pieces of the puzzle already exist. We just need to snap them together. It's a very simple sort of solution. We're just taking things humans already do, rocks, farms, science, and then bringing it all together. And hopefully something that more of the globe can run with as well.
Simple solutions, but so many benefits. Our thanks to Ginger. Coming up, the new discovery under Yellowstone National Park that could be keeping us all safe from a massive volcanic eruption. And the trend of Gen Zers turning to their friends for medical advice, not doctors. We go by the numbers. Getting a second medical opinion is nothing new, but young adults are increasingly looking for one from someone besides their doctors. Where are they getting it instead? Let's find out by the numbers. 38% of adults age 18 to 34 ignored what their doctor had to say in the past year in favor of advice from social media. That's a 12% jump. For Gen Zers, it's even more extreme. A full 1/3 of them use TikTok as their main source of health information. It comes down to who you trust and who you don't. Just 37% of Americans consider their doctor their preferred choice for medical guidance. About the same amount trust the media to accurately report health news. Some measure of distrust has always existed, but COVID-19 supercharged the skepticism. Before the pandemic, trust in physicians and hospitals was at more than 70%. Now, it's more like 40%. Social media has filled the void, and not really in a healthy way. Almost half of Gen Z and millennials say the average person can know as much about health matters as trained doctors. And that has consequences. The majority of young adults say they've made at least one health decision they regret in the past year based on inaccurate or misleading information. So please see your doctor and feel free to get that second opinion. Coming up, the wildly popular new device crashing websites before it's even officially on sale. And it takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But actor Diego Luna tells us why Star Wars feels more fresh than ever. An Amazon delivery driver accused in a cake caper, the secret science keeping Yellowstone safe, and the actor cast to play Anthony Bourdain on the big screen. Those stories and more in tonight's rundown.
The Trump Organization's merchandise store is now selling Trump 2028 hats. The listing includes a photo of Eric Trump modeling the cap and inviting people to, quote, make a statement by purchasing one. President Trump has teased that he would consider another run, even though he is disqualified to do so by the Constitution's 22nd Amendment, which bars anyone from serving more than 2 four-year terms. Excitement over the Nintendo Switch 2 becoming available for pre-order after midnight reportedly led to online retailers getting overwhelmed. Target, Walmart, and Best Buy were among the stores that experienced outages due to high demand for the consoles, which reportedly sold out within minutes. The pre-order date was pushed back a few weeks because of President Trump's new tariffs. The Switch 2 will officially launch June 5th. A Pennsylvania teen's quick thinking and help from store owners allowed her to escape a scary situation. The girl is seen on video being followed by a man who allegedly made inappropriate remarks towards her. The owners of a nearby store saw the situation and intervened. The girl's mom said her daughter saw them and figured a way out.
She said, Aunt Rachel, and, made up a name and ran over.
The owners brought the girl inside the store and called police while the man waited outside. He was arrested. Geologists have found a hidden magma cap in Yellowstone National Park. The large cap is located more than 2 miles below the Earth's surface and acts like a lid, trapping pressure and heat below it. The cap is said to likely be playing a critical role in preventing a massive eruption from Yellowstone's volcanic system. Researchers said current conditions at Yellowstone indicated that an eruption is not imminent. An Amazon driver in Louisiana was caught on camera apparently stealing a family birthday cake. Slidell police released surveillance video of the driver dropping off a package and then walking into the family's garage before emerging with a birthday cake. The story has a sweet ending. The so-called cake crook eventually turned himself in, ending what police called one of the more unusual cases they had seen. 2 main stars of an upcoming Anthony Bourdain biopic have been revealed. Dominic Sessa will star as a younger Bourdain in the A24 film Tony, with Antonio Banderas joining in an undisclosed role. The film will focus on a summer that Bourdain spent in Provincetown, Massachusetts in 1976. Filming reportedly starts next month.
All right, attention Star Wars fans, the hit show Andor is back for its 2nd and final season. The Star Wars universe show takes place at a time where there are no Jedi, and for superstar Diego Luna, that was part of the draw of the series. Star Wars, like its die-hard fans have never seen before. Our Will Reeves sat down with Luna to talk about it all.
I came with you to be part of something.
The Empire cannot win. Welcome to the rebellion.
So this is your second and final season of Andor. It took you 2.5 years to film just this season. What has the journey been like?
It's intense and beautiful at the same time. We work really hard because everything goes through one person. Tony Gilroy is our leader, and he's very meticulous. He's a fantastic writer, and the material he gives you is just doesn't end. You know, you can always improve. You can always find other ways. You know, it also gives you a lot of freedom. The dynamic, it's more like making a movie, you know, just a very long one, because someone's behind the writing, the casting, then the execution of it, and the post-production has to all go through the same person. We build sets, you know, and we don't work with CGI or screens. We work in real locations, and yeah, 2.5 years is the time that it gets us from the moment we start to the moment we can deliver. So yeah, it's a long time.
It sounds and looks immersive and intensive. Was it always the plan to just do 2 seasons?
No, we at the beginning we thought we were gonna do 5. The idea was to do each season would be a year before we get to Rogue One. Half the way of the first season, we were like, this is just not gonna happen. I mean, it's been 1.5 years and we're not close to be done, you know? So Tony and I, we sat and talked about it, and he had this great idea. He said, like, what if each block is a year, you know? And we do like kind of like small movies, you know, like 3 episodes tell you a year, then there's a time jump, and there's another 3 episodes, and then a time jump. It almost has a beginning and an end on a way, and that allows to execute what we promise at the beginning, which is make sure the story ends where Rogue One starts. You know,
what does it feel like to be leaving this chapter of your career and your life really behind?
Yeah, it's sad, obviously, because this has been my family, my community for 6 years. But it's the right way to do it. I think still today, this show represents, you know, what I like as an actor and as a producer. I've been learning so much from this whole team. I think I've been very lucky, you know, to be able to participate in a show where everyone cares so much.
We need a pilot, a soldier. You're thinking like a thief. I'm thinking like a soldier. Think like a leader.
Were you always a Star Wars fan?
Yeah, I was as a kid. I was a huge fan. I grew up watching the first films, and I was a little late. But I was the youngest in my family. All the cousins were already Star Wars fans, and I wanted to belong, you know, to belong to that community and to play that fantasy that seemed to excite everyone so much. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever done a project that connects with my childhood this way, you know.
I want you to take us behind the scenes here. You're filming a scene, you're navigating, fans see these huge spacecraft. They're fully immersed in the Star Wars universe. What does it look like on your end? Are you actually pushing buttons that work when you're filming on these?
Oh yeah.
On these things?
Oh yeah. The last day of shooting for me, it was inside a cockpit by myself, piloting this TIE fighter, this prototype that we see on the first episode, and the thing is on top of a gimbal. So the gimbal actually moves, you know. You turn right and it goes right, left, down, up. If you get hit, it shakes, you know. And everything around is on and is working. The panel controls are like leaded and reacting to you touching them. It's quite fascinating. I mean, you have to go train, you know, practice, and the designer tells you how it works. It's just really cool.
Your character takes a deeper dive into the people, into the Star Wars universe, beyond the Jedi, the Sith, the Rebels. You go beyond all the fantasy. Why were you drawn to this from the beginning, and how did you find your way in?
I was invited to come and be part of a project that wanted to be different, that was allowed to be different, you know, that it was going to be exactly what I was just saying, more realistic, more grounded, that it was going to be a show about the people, you know, a dark moment in this galaxy when there's no Jedis around, and it's the people that has to, you know, find the strength of community and come out. The show is called Andor. It's about an ensemble. It's about many characters that happen to be part of this awakening, you know, social awakening.
You've had quite a career. You've, from a young age, and you've just done so much interesting, compelling, meaningful work. I'm going to run down a little list here. You started in telenovelas. You had a breakthrough role in Y Tu Mama Tambien, Frida. You're on Narcos. Now you're in the Star Wars universe. What haven't you done that you might like to do?
I don't know the answer to that, but I think I'll find out, and I'll tell you why. The beauty of this profession, of my job, is that what I can do now, I couldn't do before, you know, and the roles I'll be able to play in 5 or 10 years will be much more complex than what I can do now. I think besides the stories we tell, what matters is the journey we go through, and that's what really transforms you.
Our thanks to Will. You can now stream the first 3 episodes of Andor on Disney+. And by the way, Disney is the parent company of ABC News. And finally tonight, check out this incredible picture of the sun. The Solar Orbiter, a collaborative space mission between the European Space Agency and NASA, captured this, the highest quality picture of the sun ever recorded. It's a composite of 200 images and shows the sun's million-degree hot atmosphere as it looks in ultraviolet light. And of course, since humans can't look directly at the sun, this just may be the best look we will ever get. Take that in. Gorgeous. That is our show for this hour. I'm Stephanie Ramos. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you for streaming with us.